Morning.
How are you?
Here we are. So I was supposed to be on my other account, but Facebook has said, not yet. You don't know enough people or you haven't done enough posts, so I'm not allowed.
It's not official yet.
I'm not official. I don't exist.
Lovely metaverse.
I know. Yeah, it's a bit meta, isn't it? So,
Right.
so I'm on here. Sorry, folks. Anyway.
Right, let's
Why are we here?
talk about cake.
Yeah.
Because I'm still eating this
You're
cake.
silly. I didn't have any, obviously, because I'm far too healthy to do that. I just ate it before we started.
Ate it quicker than me. Gluten-free cinnamon cake from Laneway Coffee House in Leon Solent.
Very nice.
Excellent. Gluten-free by default. That's why we love them.
Yeah. I've never had any of their cake before, so that was epic. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
so I'll finish that after. But I also have a coffee because it's coffee with Katie and Luke. So where would we be without our coffee? Cheers.
I nearly had a blue one because Luke said, "Oh, I found a really nice looking barista style
In the
at
back
the
of my
back of the cupboard," which he then opened and it was blue.
I didn't know you could get blue coffee.
Yeah, so that went in the bin.
Yeah.
So I'm not drinking that.
No, we had quite a laugh about that. That's quite good.
That was quite funny.
Right, messiness of life.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
The blue coffee of life.
Yeah. The metaphor of the blue coffee. That was your idea,
yeah,
wasn't
well,
it? But
collectively, I think we were kind of back and forthing with some ideas. We couldn't land on anything.
No.
And then we got to messiness, and we're like, oh, that resonates.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Because why did I think it resonated? Because, oh my goodness, work, kids, house, personal life, and trying to balance all of those things.
Yeah, what's the personal life? What's that?
Yeah, I know. Noticed it was at the bottom. Isn't that ironic? You know, yeah. Mad, isn't it? Trying to just juggle absolutely everything. The messiness. And when you said, I think what I liked about what you said was the messiness of life. It's really messy. Where are the boundaries between one thing and the next? And it's getting harder to manage all of that, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, so I've been pondering a lot recently on this. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's always going to be messy.
Yeah.
And our duty is to navigate it.
Yeah.
And I talk often about this. There's this kind of false perception that, you know, if we start a healing journey, if we want to use a cliche, reference Jeff Brown this morning. I know.
Healing journey. Who wants to do that?
That it's always this uphill trajectory, you know, better and getting better and getting better and getting better, and we reach the peak of the mountain and life is wonderful. We're all kind of striving for this peak of the mountain. I don't think it exists.
I think you might be right.
I think we can have peaks, of course, but maybe lots of mountains, lots of journeys.
Yeah.
And what comes between peaks? Valleys.
Yeah, this is very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And so I just don't think that we're meant to reach this magical, fictitious peak that everyone's striving towards. And I think there's a lot of stuff on social media. This is kind of a reference to Jeff Brown thing.
Another eye roll, I saw that.
Yeah, gosh, I can't help it. I don't have control of my face. You always know what I'm thinking. Can't be lying. I just think there's a world of stuff on social media where people are putting their best foot forward as such, but they're saying, you can achieve this, you can be as wonderful as I am, you can heal and grow and have this free life, and that, you know, and I just think, yes, that's great when it happens, but it's not, everything is temporary. There's no permanence in any of it, and it's not, and you have to acknowledge that through all that stuff, even to get to that temporary peak, it's a minefield, and it is messy, and sometimes you go up the hill, sometimes you go down, it's a dance.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think that we need to shake this perception that we can get to the top of this peak and life is rosy.
There's this nirvana at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, because I think certainly for me, I think what I've done is I've noticed what felt rubbish and I've tried to push that out and bring other things in that feel better. But life is still messy, you know. It's still challenging. It's still busy, and I still have to work hard at finding time to do different things, and, you know, not going mad with so many things that we've all got on our plates. And like you say, there are times when it's really, really good, and times that it isn't. It's more difficult. What was it in Bridget Jones that she said? It's a truth universally acknowledged, which is obviously based on Jane Austen. That the moment one part of your life is going well, another one falls spectacularly to pieces. That was what I remember. That always stuck with me, because there is an element of that in life, I think.
It's like these multiple peaks, I think.
Yeah.
We're all managing all these different mountains.
Yeah, exactly. We are.
And what side of them we're on, or where we're at on that journey for each different thing, can be different at different times.
Yeah. So I guess what you're saying, if I'm hearing correctly, is embrace the messiness, really, because it's never going to go away, but accept. What do you think we need to do then? How do we navigate it? What do you think?
I think the term navigate is the key word. I think that's our whole purpose, is to learn to navigate it. To survive and thrive through all of it. Because I just don't think that we're aiming for this nirvana state, as you said, in this lifetime necessarily, depending on your beliefs. But how do you resonate with that? Because we're having this conversation now about it, but we also have similar experiences in life, but also very different experiences in life.
Yes.
So if I'm sat here talking about multiple peaks and there's no nirvana, and it sounds a bit doom and gloom, and I don't mean it to be, but what's your resonance with that?
I think I agree with you. I think I would say that you kind of have to. First of all, you have to notice, don't you? You have to spend some time being honest with yourself, like, where in my life is good and what needs to change, and what could I do about those things? And then I think you have to try and take steps to address it. So what do I mean? I suppose with me, work has always been a big one. I wasn't happy at work, and so it felt like my whole life at that point, when work was really difficult, was a big uphill struggle. If I could just change the work, everything's going to be rosy. There probably was an element of that.
I bet I've definitely been there.
Yeah, haven't we all? And we all think the grass is greener, and all those sentiments that sort of echo that. And it absolutely is. I think is the truth.
In that mountain of your life.
Yeah, in that particular example.
Yeah.
Taking out a job that I didn't particularly enjoy and replacing it with one that I feel really driven to do is wonderful. But it doesn't negate other areas of life, and it doesn't mean I don't work at it. I have to work really hard at it to make it successful. What's changed for me is my outlook. I've tried to cultivate a different outlook on life, which I guess is what you're saying, just an acceptance of there's going to be difficult things, because there'll be things that life throws at you in this messy life that we live that you have literally no control over. So maybe relinquishing control, or this perceived notion of control, which we've talked about before.
Yeah, I like that.
In business, there's this idea when you're employed, you feel like your life is under control because your pay comes at the end of the month, and you feel this perceived notion of control. So I suppose I've tried to notice that it doesn't exist, I guess, which can be a bit scary, but also it's liberating, because you realise you just have to a certain degree, let go, do what you do, and have faith that, focus on now, because now is what we've got. Because it will go wrong again, and I've experienced that, and you have with, loss of loved ones and
all sorts of stuff.
Same, and with your accident and stuff that happened to you there, and I've experienced it with my mum got sick and died, and then 3 months later my dad died, and I had literally no control. Then my cat died, for God's sake. So I had no control over any of those things. So the only thing you can control is your own attitude, I think, your own outlook.
I think with all these adversities that we've just referenced, every one of those has given me a tool. I think every one of those has given me a coping mechanism, or like a tool to put in my backpack that is going to then help me for when the next thing comes up.
Yeah.
And I think that's the importance of it. So although our duty is to navigate, I believe our duty is to navigate these kind of highs and lows of life, how you navigate them will change through time, because you will learn and you will grow and you'll mature. And I just think you'll gain different perspectives, as you said. Mindset is a big thing for you, and exactly what you're doing as a business.
Yeah.
And so we tend to see repeats of cycles, things happening over and over and over again. And I think that's when you can recognise you haven't learned something, you haven't grown, you haven't matured through previous experience, so you keep getting the same cycle.
Yeah.
But when you find different stuff coming into your world, or different adversities, or even things that when they crop up you feel differently about how you react to them or respond to them, that's the recognition of the growth.
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
that's what we're striving for. That is the nirvana, is getting like the ultimate backpack.
Oh, there we go, the ultimate backpack.
Trademark, Luke.
I was going to say, that sounds really cool. I'd love the ultimate backpack, but then you'll never stop, will you? There'll always be something. You'll always notice new parts of growth in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. I think, I think also we need to remember that tough times are just also tough, and they can just be horrible.
It's okay for things to be
It's
shit.
okay, yeah, exactly. You don't have to go, oh, well, I must be growing right now. It could be, you could go, oh, do you know, this sucks, this is awful.
I think that growth mindset actually comes in hindsight. I talk about this in tarot, which I know will make some people cringe. But,
sorry.
We have the swords as a suit in the tarot deck, and that's really about battles and challenges in your life, and some challenges can be really positive, some can be really negative. But some of the cards show them in action, the physical battles happening, and other cards show them hung up, meaning that they're not active. And I think that when they're not active, that's when you can look at, well, what was in it for me? What was the lesson? Where is the growth? But when you're active and in it, it's just shit.
It is, and it's survival at that point. It's like, I'm just reacting,
and nobody's expecting you to sit down and think, well, what's the lesson here in the midst of the battle?
No.
But certainly afterwards, I think that's our responsibility.
Yeah, I think, absolutely. Well, also, you say our responsibility, I kind of almost feel like you don't even have a choice. That's how I feel about it with the things that have happened in my life. I've stopped and looked at it because I had to. Grief is a big one. Grief makes you stop and reflect on how you felt about the person that you're grieving. And I feel that's been a very complicated process because it brings up, until you've experienced it, you kind of think grief is, I just feel very, very sad. It's not. It's every emotion.
Oh, it's so confusing.
That you had for that person.
We need to do a whole thing on grief.
Grief might be a good one. Did you have a tissue, Luke? Sorry,
We're both doing it.
Full of cold. This is the time of year that we're in.
I do not need that for my retreat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't. Yeah, I'll go get back in my box. But and so I think what I'm saying is you kind of don't have any choice. These thoughts come in your head, and it shapes your outlook whether you want it to or not. Is my feeling. But yeah, I think if you can have an eye on self-awareness. I've said for ages, I don't know if I've said on here before, I think it's just that's the ultimate backpack skill for me, self-awareness, because that's how you're going to navigate life generally, being aware of who you are, how you react to things, and other people, how they might react to things and what their lens on something might be, so that you can just, extend compassion to yourself and others, really, basically, because without that...
We're not taught self-awareness.
No.
Did we already do a thing on this? I can't remember. We definitely had this conversation. We're not taught self-awareness. No. We have to learn it the hard way, unfortunately. Maybe we could do better as parents and teachers or whatever around that. But currently, generally speaking, in society, we're not taught self-awareness.
No.
But I've learned it all the hard way. And sometimes I wonder if I'm too self-aware. Do you ever sit in that mindset and think, ignorance is bliss? I wish I didn't know.
Yes, I've had this conversation. A lady I used to work with said to me, I just wish I could be a horrible person just for a little while so I could walk through life and just, tread on everybody. And you can't, once you know, once you care and once you're aware.
You can't take it back.
You can't take it back. No.
Again, the messiness of life.
It is. It really is. But I wouldn't be without it. It's torturous sometimes. I don't know if you find that. It's just like reflecting on, oh God, did I say the wrong thing? Or
it's the stuff that keeps us up at night.
Yeah, the cringe. I was talking to a friend just yesterday about what I named as a shame hangover. It's about something.
I so resonate with that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd something had happened, and it caused me to join some dots and go, oh my God, what if that person thinks this? I didn't intend that. And I just felt this massive shame hangover because it wasn't how I wanted to be. And I get that a lot. So sounds like you do as well.
Yeah, I'm having one today.
Are you? That's just a cake hangover.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I just, well, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, but what I have with you off screen, but not on screen.
Yeah.
I'm just at my wit's end with something and some people in my life, and made it a little more formal yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I'm not feeling shameful in a sense of I've done the wrong thing. I'm feeling shameful in the sense of, could I have approached it more compassionately? Should I have not let it get to this point? Should I have put boundaries in sooner? You know, so it's all of those questions. I haven't done it flippantly, you know, we've had good conversations, but and I've had conversations with other kind of neutral-minded people just to get some perspective, but that doesn't stop me feeling the guilt of actually having to do it, to be firmer, to set boundaries, to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's hard as well, because I know what you're talking about and you're emotionally invested. So I think, well, who isn't emotionally invested in their life? But it's very hard,
some
isn't
people,
it?
Surprisingly.
What do you think?
I know a few.
Okay. I don't know. I think it's really hard when you care to advocate for yourself and to say, I feel like, using your self-awareness, I feel like maybe my boundaries are being pushed or trampled on, or, you know, not respected in some way. And because you are a caring person and a thoughtful person, and you do think, and probably do overthink, and that's why we're friends.
Yes.
So
Overthinkers Club.
Yeah. Cheers to that. Now you've definitely got my cold, by the way. But I think it's going to make you feel these things more. You're just going to feel it. But that's the paradox, right? Because if you didn't feel it, you wouldn't be able to do what you do. So you kind of have to. It's a burden.
Life is messy.
It is. It's messy, but it's what makes you you. And I guess embracing all of that. That's like, for me. That's what I would love for people who come to see me to do, is to understand we're all the same in our own way, and we just have to accept ourselves as we are. And if there's a bit we don't like, notice it and go, well, okay, well, what can I do about that?
And also I think that you can have experiences on both sides of the coins at the same time. Like, you know, for everything where you think you're doing it right, your judgment might also think that you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Or, you know, for what one person thinks is right, another person thinks is wrong. So there's no, I mean, we tend to view this world as really black and white, and it's really not, it's so grey. And just because we believe one thing in one circumstance doesn't mean that we have to apply that to everything, you know. So life is confusing in that respect, as when we're dealing with anything, we can have mixed emotions or be unclear or feel confused and it be okay, rather than feel confused and think that there's something wrong. But stopping to recognise, actually, it's normal. It's okay to feel confused or to feel conflicted or to you know, all of those things. It's all the yin and the yang, kind of one balancing out the other. Nothing is ever straightforward. There's always two sides or multiple sides to everything, and you can think and feel on all of those levels, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Confusion is a valid emotion, and actually for confusion it can help to verbalise, I think, you know, oh, I believe this, but also I believe this conflicting thing at the same time, or I'm feeling this and also this, to actually try and name the elements of the confusion so that you get more of a shape of it and actually can extend more compassion to yourself. Okay, well, and if anybody was listening to that, they'd probably go, well, I'd be confused as well, but with what you've just outlined there, it's okay to feel that way. But
I like that. Messy. Confusion is a valid emotion.
Yeah, I think
that's a good quote there. That's a Katie Delaney quote right there.
TM.
Yeah.
TM.
Yeah. Again, it's a judgment to say that to be confused is wrong.
I don't know. Of course you can be confused. You know, we both got kids. We know what confusion looks like. I mean, the number of times well, I don't understand. You know, that. Of course they don't understand. They're little and they're learning about life. What's to say we have to understand everything because we're older and, you know, we don't.
That's really valid about children, because often their behaviour is illogical. And as a grown-up, you're like, you're so illogical. But to them, it's a natural state. They haven't learned logic.
Yes, and what's to say logic is the answer anyway, actually, let's be honest.
Yeah, just based on the conversation we were just having about reasonable belief, about proving things or science or whatever.
Yes.
So that's another conversation, it's another tangent.
That's a whole other conversation.
But, that would also apply that, logic is one result.
Yes, and it's one outlook. And as you say, children are very instinctive. And that's interesting, actually, reflecting on that, because I think we risk losing touch with our instinct. It's kind of conditioned out of us. So, with a view to self-awareness and navigating the messiness of life, we kind of have to get back in touch with that childlike element of ourselves. Curiosity, yes. They talk about this in psychological terms as well, like holding a thought with curiosity, noticing that it doesn't necessarily mean anything about you as a person, it's just a thought. Oh, let's just look at that and think and just reflect on, where's that come from? Why am I thinking that or feeling that? What's going on? Rather than, judgment.
Applying a judgment.
Oh, judgment, I'm a terrible person.
So this is the Six of Cups in tarot.
Oh, is it? Tell me more, Luke.
Well, in the Six of Cups, you see children sniffing daisies growing out of cups.
Okay.
And as an adult, we would go, why is there a daisy growing out of a cup?
Logic.
But as a child, they're like, oh, this is nice. Let's just explore this. What's this about?
Yeah.
And that's what's depicted in the image. You just see these children exploring and enjoying and embracing this weirdness and not questioning it.
How interesting.
And I love that, because that's what we forget to do.
We do. So I guess what you're talking about there is conditioning, aren't you? Conditioned to think and accept things to be a certain way.
To apply logic and to judge.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas children, critical thinking is a useful tool, but I think as children
It's not their natural state to critically think, though. It's a learned behaviour.
It is a learned behaviour. I think critical thinking is useful in the world that we live in.
In the modern world,
yeah. But, as children, just, well, there's, it could be anything. There's a person who looks like this, or there's a house that looks like that, or there's I don't know. They're so resourceful and adaptable because they are open-minded,
And they learn what we teach them or what they're taught through society. But if we were to, not that we're ever going to experiment doing this, but if you were to just leave a child to raise itself effectively, apart from supplying its basic needs, I would be super curious to see instinctively how they would navigate the world, because I think it would be totally different to the modern human.
I think you might be right. I remember years ago on a nutritional sort of angle watching a programme where they put children in a room with a load of food and they watched to see what they chose, little ones, sort of 3 years old. And they instinctively went for the healthier foods. They did have a bit of the cake and the sweets and everything else, but they instinctively went for a variety of things. And that's interesting, I think,
Yes.
You wouldn't necessarily expect that.
No, but their instinct is, as you say, variety, but a healthy balance, you could argue.
Yeah, they're sort of just instinctively doing it. Same as with appetite regulation, children are typically quite good. And you hear so many parents worrying, and I know this feeling, they haven't eaten enough. But actually, if given the right things, so that their little bodies aren't hijacked by the wrong things, they will typically make the best choices about how hungry they are.
What's interesting, and this is just me as an adult, but there was a point when I'd moved on to a more extreme diet, but through that diet my body was getting really accurate nutrition, more nutrition than I'm used to having in my body, and I felt less hungry. I ate a lot less because my body was getting the nutrients it needed, rather than just eating for the sake of instant satisfaction, but then actually it all just passing straight through because it wasn't nutritional. So you're not holding on to it, which is why you get hungry again. But when I had the correct nutrition, I didn't need to eat as much. So just like you're saying, if a child you think a child's not eating enough, actually, are they getting the right nutrients? Is it more about that?
It can, if left to their own devices, the science seemed to suggest that they would choose more nutritious foods. But yeah, what you're describing is basically, it's been seen in scientific studies at the risk of going off topic, but yeah, absolutely. The more nutritious foods you have, actually the less volume of food you need, and the more your hormones work effectively to regulate your appetite. So, Yeah.
It's slightly off topic, but that's what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just listening to that podcast that you were talking about, that you sent me about narcissism.
Yes.
So I'm not that far in, but I'm a little bit in.
Okay.
And they were talking about a scientific experiment where there was a pack of, I want to say baboons.
Yeah.
And the alphas, through eating something stupid.
They ate something out the bin, didn't they?
And they all died.
Yeah.
So the pack was left with no alphas.
Yeah.
So I guess no kind of ego, no conditioning, no control measures.
Yeah.
And so the pack then had to operate by themselves without that element of control.
Yeah.
And actually the science showed that the pack got healthier.
They did. Yeah. Wasn't that fascinating? I loved that experiment. Really interesting that they didn't need the sort of strong alphas to lead the pack. Actually, when they were taken out, everyone got along a lot better. There was more harmonious and healthier because their stress hormone levels went down. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
So it is interesting. So, how do we circle this back to the messiness of life? I think that conditioning is something we always boil down to.
Yeah.
Things are taught to us through societal, our parents, education, whatever, that we do and behave and be and should in a certain way. But actually, that doesn't always give us the toolkit. It doesn't always give us the backpack to then deal with stuff that falls outside of the remit. But if we were left more instinctively to follow things in our own way without the control or conditioning of others, do you think that we'd have that backpack full a bit sooner in our lives?
Oh, that's a really good question. Maybe, or is it the fact that we have the conditioning and then we rebel against it that highlights the problems and forces us to learn? I don't know, you kind of need the shade to appreciate the light, don't you?
Yeah,
it was through the darkness, through the dark times that you grow and you develop, like planting a seed, isn't it, in the dark soil that it grows. But yeah, maybe without the conditioning we would, I don't know, we would be more instinctive, definitely.
I'm just wondering if we would have a better not necessarily better, but we would have a bit like we talked about, if you just left a child to grow, and to raise itself through instinct. Do you think our backpacks would be different? We wouldn't be I don't think we'd be having to navigate as much of the messiness. Not saying messiness wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the messiness comes from expectations or conditioning of others.
That's true. So I guess if you define messiness as being an unmanageable life in some way, then...
Like job. It's a conditioned thing that we grow up and we get jobs.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So, but as an instinctive human, we probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah. It's true. And so now I'm thinking, you said Jobs, and now I'm thinking Steve Jobs. He's somebody I always come back to because he's interesting. He dropped out of uni and started sitting in on the classes that he found interesting instead.
The majority of people that you see really highly successful don't have formalised education.
Yeah. So he didn't do it according to the rules. And as a result, he followed his instincts more and ended up, I'm sure he wasn't necessarily the nicest person, but he's definitely an interesting example of what you can do if you stop doing all the shoulds and start listening to what you like. And But then he also had privilege and he had... opportunity and other things that were at play as well.
But just the nature of following what you like rather than what you should. Yeah. Manifesting generator in human design.
Okay. That's me. Yeah, absolutely. Very true.
And which 33% of people in the world are.
There we go. I sometimes find myself thinking, gosh, if everybody did a job they liked, wouldn't the world be a happier place?
This is the whole human design thing, because 70% of people have generator energy, and so 70% of people who are more likely to get in line, do as they're told, follow the shoulds, fall into societal norms, right?
Okay.
So that you can see how that works from a war perspective as an example. We've been in war for many years. You need to get in line for survival. You need to do what you need to do for survival. But the world's a bit different now. I'm not saying that war doesn't exist, of course it does, but where we live, it's very different. We have a lot more freedom, but we're still in this mindset of doing as we're told. And so if 70% of people are more susceptible to doing that, if those 70% of people actually just did what they loved and what they like, imagine how much happier the world would be.
Yeah.
And people would say, well, then nothing would get done. And I'm like, yes, it would, because there are some people that super geek out on data entry and quantum physics and advanced mathematics.
Yeah.
And they would be doing that. And then there are other people that want to be creatives or artists or whatever.
Absolutely.
And they would love doing that too. And then everybody would just be getting the best of everyone.
And there are also some people who love the discipline of military services or something like that, you know, and I think that there is a place for everybody. I think it's finding where that is for you.
I think the majority of the world is just misaligned because of shoulds, because, you know, as an example, so many people will go to uni, get a degree, they want to work in that field, but they can't get a job in that field. So you get, I don't know, let's call this person Joe. Joe works in the cinema because Joe can't get a job in... I don't know, what's something you do at uni? I can't even think. Brain's not working.
So it'd be law or...
Joe can't get a job in law. So Joe works at the cinema. But there'll be somebody that works in law that would be like, well, if I won the lottery, I won't go back to work tomorrow.
Yes.
So they're clearly misaligned. Yet if Joe won the lottery, Joe like, I don't have to work at the cinema anymore, but I definitely want to explore that law path.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's just proof that we're just... The majority of people, if you ask them if they won the lottery, would they go back to work tomorrow? The majority of people wouldn't.
That is such a good question. I love asking people that question. If you won the lottery, what would you do? What would you do?
So why, you know, for me, everyone's just so misaligned. If you get that feeling that if you won the lottery you wouldn't go back to work, then why are you in work?
Yeah.
Why?
What could you do instead?
If we all just realigned ourselves, we'd all be in the right place.
Absolutely.
I won the lottery. I'd damn well be doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Same.
Slightly different variations in some aspects, but I would still be out there living my purpose that I feel.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think it takes an honest conversation with yourself. That's again self-awareness, isn't it? Understanding what you want out of life, which means you've got to have time to reflect on that, which means the messiness of life makes it really hard. So you have to find some time to think, basically.
So let me play devil's advocate.
Go on then.
Right, we're going to do a bit of coaching.
Go on then. Okay.
No pressure. I don't have any time. I've got 2 children. I run my own business. You know, my house is a mess, and I can't keep on top of things. We don't have any money, so I need to work to earn money.
What do you do?
Yeah.
You have to. Well, first of all, you have to be honest with yourself. I think is number one. Is this working for you? Because the problem is, in that situation, if it's not working, something will force your hand and make you stop. Yeah. And we know what that is, because that's burnout. That's burnout. I've been there. I've been the person doing this. I can't stop any of it. It's, you know.
But the universe forces you to stop, is my view. Like when it pushed me down that flipping step and I broke 7 bones.
There we go.
Because I wasn't listening and I wasn't listening and I wasn't listening. I'd already done the burnout previously.
Yeah,
and I still didn't listen. Go. So the universe will intervene. So great start.
That's what I think. So how did I do it? Well, I had to hit burnout. If you're that person, my heart goes out to you, because I've been there, and for me it was physical and emotional. I physically couldn't carry on. My brain just would not let me, and I wouldn't stop crying. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I just couldn't function. So I had to. So then I took the time to stop, and then I took the time to think. If you see this in yourself, I guess it's about being honest and thinking, is this sustainable? You know, is this how I want to live? Look at how beautiful the sun is shining today. It's a beautiful day. Do you really want to be feeling the way you're feeling like this every day for the foreseeable future? If you don't, there's got to be something
has to give.
Way to claw something back, even if it's signing off sick. Do you know, if you're really, really stressed, what's wrong with that? If you're employed, take some time, you know?
Did I tell you about my burnout story? Just the very, like you said, you just couldn't stop crying and blah, blah. My burnout story was I got ready for work one day and I went to my front door and I couldn't open it.
Oh, bless you.
I could physically open it, but I couldn't open it.
Yeah.
I couldn't bring myself to get in my car to go to work. I couldn't physically, I could physically open the door. If there was a fire, I'd have got out. Like there was nothing wrong with the door, but just I couldn't bring myself to open the door. And I didn't even have any awareness of that until I got to that front door. Yeah. There was no inkling.
Oh, how funny.
And then I called work and I blubbed down the phone that they didn't even know who was on the phone. They had no idea it was me because I couldn't get any words out.
Oh.
I'm not a crier. And then that was it.
And that was that.
Yeah.
And that was your moment. How funny. So that was almost thinking about that now, did you feel that? Where did you feel that? That I can't open the door. Was it in your head? Was it in your body? What was it?
Oh God, that's a good question. It's a long time ago. 2011.
Yeah.
I want to say like it was a gut thing.
Okay.
Like, when you meet someone for the first time and you get butterflies and it's all exciting. It's like the
Yeah.
dead opposite of that. Like it was
Dead butterflies.
It was like fear and dread and
Okay.
I think it was that.
That's really interesting. So, and that was okay. Because I think our body often sends messages that our mind is not paying attention to. That's something else. Just notice how you're feeling in your body. How do different situations make you physically feel? I still use that tool now to try and understand how I feel about a situation, because my head might be going, this is fine, and my heart's going, oh no, this is fine, and my gut's going, oh, no, be careful, Katie. this is not fine.
Yeah.
Kind of a darkness. I feel like a weight, and you have to tune into those feelings because they are real. They are telling you something. That's my belief. So how interesting that you felt that.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before, but we're always taught to think. Everything in education is about how we think. How do even God, what was the term you used just now? Critical thinking. So everything is geared towards thinking. And I'm not saying that's not useful, but we're using this first.
Yes.
From an instinctive perspective, there's talk about we should be using the gut first. So gut, then heart, then head. But we do it the other way around.
Yeah. Or all together. For some people, they might have different reactions. Just as long as we have this holistic approach to what do I think and feel, and how is that informing what I choose to do next? I think thinking is a holistic activity. It's not simply a mental process. I believe. I would agree with you there.
What was it you that said the other day, or was I talking to someone else? I think it was you that said somebody once asked you, where do you think? Yeah. I can't remember exactly how you said it, but say it again.
Somebody, I was on another podcast I was listening to, said, where is the mind?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Is it in your brain or is it somewhere else? And I'd never really thought about that before. I've always thought mind is in your brain, but actually what is your mind, and where is it? I don't know the answer.
Well, did you just answer it?
That was it. Yeah, maybe that's the holistic.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. The mind is the whole thing.
Love that.
Yeah. So there we go.
Another trademark, Katie, right there.
Okay. Well, it was you really. You trademarked it for me. I'll lend it to you.
So sorry, we did always divert. We always do, which is the purpose of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said, if I came to you and I said, I'm too stressed out and I've got too much on my plate, what do I do? And your first response to that was just to stop and think and say, be honest. Stop and be honest.
And
right?
notice. Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes the world is too messy and overwhelming to even stop and have an honest conversation or thought with yourself. Because you're like, well, I haven't got time to stop and think. And we were kind of just talking about this prior to this, about a workspace and a system that we currently have operating here in the world, where people aren't allowed time to stop and think. Therefore, the status quo is just to accept and keep moving forward.
Just keep going.
So do you want to accept the status quo in your life of this is just how it is and keep rolling? Or do you need to stop and think and say, something's going to give. I'm not going to be able to open the door. I'm going to break my legs. I'm going to not be able to stop crying.
Yeah.
So do I need to get there to stop? Or could I do something proactive rather than reactive? And I do think that we don't live in a world where we're taught that prevention is better than cure. I think that we live in a world where something happens and we want a cure, a fix, a result. Someone else needs to fix it. But actually, we really do need to learn prevention is better than cure.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is also accepting that, we have a responsibility to ourselves. It doesn't have to get so bad that we can't cope before we do something. We have this is our life. And I guess that's what's changed for me is, I watched my mum pass away. And when you watch somebody pass away, I think as you've been in that experience, you suddenly realise how precious time is, right? Life. It could go at literally any minute. Is this how you want to be living? Are you really happy with how this is? And that, for me, is so clear now. I don't want to waste it doing something that isn't going to be either of service to me and my family or other people. You know, I need it to be meaningful. And there'll be, you know, meaningless stuff in the middle, but, you know, I need to at least know that generally I've tried to make the most of this opportunity, because it's not going to come around again. And you know, like there's the idea of, we've all been dealt our chips, right? At the beginning of the game when you're born, and every day you cash in a few more and your chip pile is getting smaller and smaller. This is a poker analogy, by the way, not a, you know, pile of fish and chips. But, you know, we have our chips and they're going. So are you happy with how you spent them today? How are you going to spend them tomorrow? Is this what you want to be spending them on?
Years ago, can't remember who it was, I listened to a talk or a podcast or something, and the person said, I fantasize about my death every day.
Ooh, that's heavy.
Yeah, but the concept was that they wanted to know that up till their death they have lived to every moment that they can, that they have not wasted time, you know, being run down, burnt out, stressed, not being able to cope, just functioning in the status quo day by day. But that every day they would wake up and they would think about their deaths and think, when I'm on my deathbed, I want to be able to say that I did everything that I could.
That's absolutely. And you've reminded me again, Steve Jobs gave a speech, which I'll post in the link in the comments below, to a university, I think it was Stanford, years ago. He's been dead himself a while, bless him, but he gave this amazingly inspirational speech where he said, knowing that I'll be dead soon is one of the strongest things that has kept me focused on living my life. And it really hit quite strongly with me, that, and I think that's very true.
Death is the only thing we can't escape. It's the one thing that we're all born to do.
Yeah, it's the destination that's getting closer every day, right? We're getting closer every single moment. So I think, you know, if you're not sure that this is making you happy,
why are you doing it?
Just be honest with yourself, and that process can take time, and I know what it's like. And
we're not saying chuck your jobs in and you know, throw your kids out the window and bugger off to Bali. You know,
that came too quickly for you.
Not what I could think about it. You know, but just to your point, just have an honest conversation with yourself. Where are you at, and what small thing can you do to make an impact on that? And even if you don't know, reach out to someone, ask them, get some advice and opinion of you. Talk to Katie, it's her job.
That's her job.
You know, don't just accept the status quo because that's all you think life can ever be.
Yeah, no, there is so much more if you want it and you're prepared to make those changes, and it can be really great, you know. And it will be rubbish again, and then it will be great again, but it will be on your terms. That's what's exciting.
Oh, I like that. It will be on your terms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that. That's a good way to finish, I think.
You think?
On your terms.
On my terms, Luke.
Yeah.
No, there we go.
Well, thank you. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
And you still haven't eaten all your cake?
No, I'll wait till the end.
Okay.
Well, it's the end. I'm going to eat it now.
Yeah, go.
And I've got to take my mother shopping.
Oh, lovely. Exciting.
Got a trip to Waitrose.
Oh, okay. Not just any old shopping then.
Well, she works at Waitrose.
Okay.
And she's just handed in her resignation, so she's going in to use the most of her discount.
Oh, so supermarket sweep.
Supermarket sweep
Lovely.
today.
I look forward to seeing the spoils of your shopping trip. Exciting.
All right. Nice to see you.
Thanks for tuning in.
Happy, what day of the week are we? Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Happy hump day.
Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day.
Bye.
See you later, folks.